Have you ever had trouble pronouncing a Pokemon's name before? I'm sure everyone has gotten to that point, but for me, I haven't had the most trouble until I found this Pokemon, and then honestly kind of fell in love with it too. Today I'm going to be talking about Reuniclus, and gosh, what a goofy looking Pokemon. Probably one of the reasons I like it. Now, Reuniclus, probably the best way to describe it is, he's kind of like a slime monster kind of thing, but has some interesting things going on with it. So imagine you have this Pokemon and you notice that the slime around the Reuniclus isn't really the Pokemon, it's more of what's inside of it. So Reuniclus has this green slime, and the shape of it is interesting. It has a oval-esque body in the middle, and coming out of the top are these two ears, and then on either side are these arms that come out. All of this is made out of slime, and on each of the arms they start small, and then they slowly get bigger, I guess to show the hands. And on each of the ends of these arms, where the hands are at, you have three, they almost look like sausage links. I guess those would be fingers. Now, that's not the only thing going on here. Inside of all this slime is, personally, I think where the Pokemon actually is. So you have a tiny, it looks almost like a baby. It is this just lime green Pokemon. It has a larger head. On either side of the head are these black dots for its eyes, and then its mouth is like a diamond shape, but where the bottom of its mouth is still curved. And then the body of this Reuniclus is quite small, kind of like Jirachi, where it has a tinier body compared to its head. It's kind of the same thing going on here, where it has tiny little arms and tiny little feet. Now, in the ears of this slime, there's also that light green shape as well. So you have your slime ear, but then on the inside is a light green ear. It's not connected to the the main part of the Reuniclus, and that also goes for these almost like Skittle-esque or M&M looking pieces coming off of the arms. So inside of the arms you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these dots, and 2 of them are lime green that are the closest to Reuniclus's tiny hands. And then the third one is a yellow dot, and then in the hand where the biggest part of the slime is that large red dot. And I hope that painted a good enough picture of what this thing actually looks like. It's very interesting, very weird, and honestly that's one of the reasons I like it. So I've got 5 Reuniclus cards here. The first one is from 2011. And so this guy's a stage 2. Reuniclus evolves from Duosion. And this one has 90 HP and is a psychic type. Now, it says it's number 579, so we're pretty far into the Pokédex at this point. It's called the Multiplying Pokemon. Has a height of 3 feet 3 inches and weighs 43.3 pounds. And that, going off of that multiplying Pokemon thing, it kind of makes sense. This is almost like it looks kind of like a cell, like a plant cell kind of thing. And as you probably have seen in your science class, if you've taken one, you can see everything inside of a cell through the lens of a microscope. It's kind of the same thing going on here. Now, this Reuniclus has an ability called Damage Swap. It says, as often as you like during your turn, before you attack, you may move one damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. and then it has the attack Psy Wave. For 3 psychic energy, it does 30 plus damage. It says, does 10 more damage for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon. Now the attack, it's not very good. 3 psychic energy, you're doing 30 damage, and if your opponent has no energy attached to it, you're only doing 30 damage. This is easily comparable to any like base set stage 2 or anything relatively around there, with just how poorly that damage output is. Now, I think the real star of this card is that ability, Damage Swap. Because you can do it as much as you like during your turn, you can manipulate damage however, so you can either like move it to a Pokemon to get healed, you can move the damage around to maybe do more damage with like sort of a rage attack, or you can just move it off so that your active Pokemon can just take another hit. I think Damage Swap has like huge potential. I've paired it with Altaria EX. With Altaria's ability, you can heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So with Damage Swap, let's say you took a hit, you took 120 damage. You can move 20 damage to every single one of your Pokemon and then heal it all. So with just that simple ability, you can heal upwards of 120 damage. I think Damage Swap is pretty cool. I think if this was in the game right now, it would be competitively viable. I mean, Gardevoir can accelerate damage, and then you can, pile that onto like your Drifloon to do more damage. Or if you had like some rage attackers, you could easily set up for some like high damage. So I like it. Damage Swap is pretty sweet. I haven't tested the deck that I built yet with the Altaria, but I expect it to be pretty busted. This Reuniclus has a weakness to Psychic ×2, no resistance, and a 2 retreat cost. The flavor text says, these remarkably intelligent Pokemon fight by controlling arms that can grip with rock-crushing power. Now, you wouldn't think that would be, like, real because of how squishy and, like, plushy their slime arms look, but it's honestly a little terrifying. Pokemon are just so, what would you say? Like, you wouldn't expect them to be able to kill you, but they definitely could. And I guess here's just another example. Rock crushing power. That sounds pretty painful. Now, the artist on this one is 5-Band Graphics. I've talked about them a little bit in the past, especially with the Primarina episode, because I think they did the GX art. And I think it looks like this is around the time when 5-Band got into the game for making cards. And I mean, this one's pretty cool looking. It honestly looks a whole lot better than a lot of the cards that I've seen them make. This Reuniclus doesn't look computer generated very much. You can definitely understand, like if I told you, hey, this card's computer generated, you'd be like, oh, okay. But if you didn't think it was, then, or if you didn't know it was, then, I could see an artist pulling this off, honestly. It's not too 3D. It definitely has some good, like, reflections on it, and the slime has a lot of, like, misty detail in it. But other than that, the Reuniclus is just shown in, it just has like a basic background, similar to a lot of older cards where the background doesn't really have to do much with the Pokemon. This one is just, it looks kind of like a vaporwave kind of background where you have these lines going across the card. And in the middle you have like a dark purple, and as it slowly comes out to the edges of the card, it just gets lighter and lighter. And then starting from the center of the card and going out in these like odd circles or like really wavy circles is just these blue lines. And that definitely gives me an idea of that this Pokemon is a psychic type and is using an attack kind of like Psywave. So it's cool. This one is a holo that I have in my hand, and the holo pattern are just these straight lines that go across the card. I know that was a pretty popular one to do, I think, with the XY cards, especially with the dragon types, is to have this holo pattern, and it's a pretty cool one. I definitely like it a lot better than a holo pattern going up and down through the card like we had with the Sword and Shield stuff. So that one's pretty good. The next Reuniclus card I have is from 2013, and this guy looks pretty cool. I definitely like the art. So it's a stage 2 and has 100 HP, so we're getting up there a little bit. It has 2 attacks. The first one is called Barrier Attack. For a psychic energy, it does 30 damage. It says, during your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30, after applying weakness and resistance. Then the second attack is called Telekinesis of Nobility. For a psychic and 2 colorless energy, it does 70 damage, and it says switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Now, I'd say pretty decent attacks. Barrier Attack reduces your damage by 30. I don't think that's too good. I mean, that puts you up to like 130 HP in a sense. And, you're probably getting hit for around 130 HP. Maybe not. Just depends on what you would be playing this card with or against. So Barrier Attack could keep you out of range of being one shot. And then the Telekinesis of Nobility has a good attack cost, being that psychic and the double colorless. And then the effect of switching the Pokemon out is pretty good. You could switch it out, put up a Pokemon that walls damage a little bit more, and then you can combo that with the damage swap Reuniclus and move that damage off of whatever you moved up to take the hit. So I like it. The attacks are pretty good. It has a weakness to psychic of ×2, no resistance, and 2 retreat cost. The flavor text says, they use psychic power to control their arms, which are made of a special liquid. They can crush boulders physically. This Pokemon just doesn't give me the boulder crushing type, but I guess they're really pushing for you to actually know that. It's interesting though too, because it tells you, it's not as much of a slime as it is a liquid, and it has to use its psychic powers to control them. That's pretty cool. Now the artist for this card is Kagemaru Himeno. Done a couple cards from them, and this one's nice. It's it looks hand drawn to me, so you're not getting any of those 3D see-through or reflection effects as much as this Reuniclus is the colors on it, or the colors for the slime especially, are just a solid green, and it's a little bit more on the pastel side, but it's still a deeper green. And then the Reuniclus, on the inside of the slime, still just has that lighter lime green to it. And this one's shown to be in some sort of arena or gazebo made from marble pillars. It's very interesting. It's up in the air, and you have a closer shot of it. You're looking at the Reuniclus not face on, but just a little bit to its left. And then shown in the background are these 3 large marble pillars. But the ground right underneath the Reuniclus isn't marble. It's some sort of psychic universe, purple psychic universe thing, almost like a portal to outer space. And then going around this portal is a marble band. And then further in the background, which I imagine this is probably just the floor, is this dark grayish brown, a concrete floor. And coming off of this Reuniclus is a bunch of what look like to be sparks, but they're not too edgy. They flow almost more. They flow a little bit more. So I imagine that's just another way of showing like the psychic power coming from Reuniclus. And it's cool. It's nice to see Reuniclus being in more of an environment than just being on the card. The next Reuniclus card I have is from 2013. This one only has 90 HP, so we're dropping down a little bit. Level ball searchable, though. Gotta keep that in mind. This Pokemon has 2 attacks. The first one's called Future Sight. It says, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them back on top of your deck in any order. Then it has the attack Net Force. It says, does 40 damage times the number of Reuniclus you have in play. It has a weakness to Psychic times 2, no resistance, and 2 retreat, which seems like it's the theme for this Pokemon. Now, Future Sight's pretty cool. It has the same effect as the Pokédex item card. You gotta look at the top 5, you can put them back in any order. I imagine that's good if, especially if you're dead drawing and you really need a way to get out. Then that could be pretty nice. I think the attack would be a little bit more busted if you could do it to your opponent's deck as well, because then you have more of a control kind of thing going. Now the Net Force attack it's cool. Reminds me of a Beedrill. There were a couple Beedrill cards that do more damage for each Beedrill you have in play. But unfortunately, it's really difficult to get 4 stage 2s out just to do 160 damage. I mean, for 1 energy, that's pretty good. And if you could get them out consistently and fast, then more power to you for doing that. But it seems a little unreliable. Now, the flavor text for this one says, when Reuniclus shake hands, a network forms between their brains, increasing their psychic power. Interesting. So it's telling you hey, sometimes these Pokemon walk up and shake hands. It almost sounds like they have a sort of social circle or something like that. Now the art on this card is totally different from what we've seen. This artist is Kyoko Umemoto, and they went about going for a very kawaii, cute look to the Reuniclus, and this is probably my favorite out of the cards that I have. So it shows Reuniclus. It's taking up most of the card. It starts from the top left all the way to the bottom right, and the artist, the way that they've gone about coloring and shading this card and the line art is very it looks like it's almost on a pencil and paper, especially for the lines. You can see the graininess in the line work, and some of the lines get thicker as they're drawn, and some are just super thin. But the coloring is very matte and very it doesn't change kind of whatsoever. So for the Reuniclus, the slime or liquid is kind of just that same pastel green, and there isn't any shading or detail going into it, as well as the body of the Reuniclus is just being that lime green, and there's nothing going into that as well. Now, this Reuniclus is shown to actually be shaking its right hand. The artist went about showing or drawing two curved lines on either side of the hand, so you can imagine that shows that it's shaking. And the background for the card is really pretty. It's like a cherry blossom tree, and it's taking up almost the whole card, almost like a hippie kind of thing too. There's a lot of those 5-petal flowers in all sorts of colors. You got red, orange, pink. I see a blue. There's even one little green one, and it's all scattered about the card. But the main background color just goes through these different colors of pink to show that there's you can't really see the sky. It's just the leaves and the flowers coming from the tree, which you can see the branches in the bottom left corner. But it's really cute. I think it has a lot of character. It shows a different side of the Reuniclus. We read about two very dangerous, very powerful ones. Well, this one's more like, yeah, they hang out, they shake hands, and, when they do that, they just become super powerful. So it's cool. I definitely like this one. Has a different vibe, and I'll probably look up this artist after this just because of how cute this card is. Now, the next one I have is from 2016, so we're slowly getting there. This one has 90 HP, and it only has one attack. It's called Link Fusion. For a psychic and a colorless energy, it does 10 plus damage. It says, if Solosis is on your bench, this attack does 30 more damage. If Duosion is on your bench, this attack does 60 more damage. If Reuniclus is on your bench, this attack does 90 more damage. So Solosis is the basic, Duosion's the stage 1, and of course Reuniclus is the stage 2. I think it's pretty good. Link Fusion sounds, it sounds reliable, and the damage only scales up to be higher. I mean, you're hitting 100 damage for 2 energy. Now that seems pretty good. I mean, this card's also levelable, searchable, so you can get it out a little bit more reliably than a lot of the stage 2s that we have. So I think it's pretty nice. You could even get it down to 1 energy with the Dimension Valley Stadium that says your psychic Pokemon, their attacks cost 1 colorless less. So I could see some potential with this. Probably won't build a deck just because of how, the power level isn't where I would want it to be, but I could see it being played in like a lower power format. So this Reuniclus has a psychic weakness of ×2, no resistance, and finally we're hitting a 1 retreat cost. So overall, I think this is one of the better cards we've seen. The flavor text says, when Reuniclus shake hands, a network forms between their brains, increasing their psychic power. So it looks like we're kind of reusing the little flavor text. Not too bad, because we've had 3 different flavor texts already, so I'm going to let this one pass. Now, the artist for this one is Yukiko Baba, and I think they did a great job. It's a different scene compared to the other ones. This shows Reuniclus actually out in the forest or in the jungle. The background shows like 2 darker wood trees toward the right, and then 2 lighter wood trees to the left of it. There's tons of green in this card too. You would almost think that this is a grass type Pokemon. And then underneath the Reuniclus are a bunch of like bushes. I see some ferns and just some like large leafed plants. Now, the Reuniclus itself is shown to be like face onto the camera. You get to see there's not like really an action pose going on as much as it's just kind of there. And then all around the Reuniclus's body is just this weird, it looks like they took some sort of like chalk or like an eraser and really went to town. So there's a lot of like different colors. It's like mostly a white, but it looks like they added in just small amounts of like pink or like a little bit of yellow in there. And it mixes with the background, so you also get this sort of like bluish green within like the erased lines, or within, I kind of guess this like, what would you call it? Maybe it's like a barrier or something like that. Almost like the Reuniclus is just showing its psychic powers in a different way than what we've seen. And the way that this artist went about like coloring the Reuniclus, it's very, this looks hand-drawn to me. You can see a lot of like really well done shading. A lot of colors are put into the card, especially in the background. The Reuniclus itself has less of, uh, it's less adventurous with its colors. They have their basic greens, but the further you go out from the Reuniclus, you see a lot more of the darker greens underneath the ferns to the darker browns in the tree line, and then just this weird. It's kind of like a mist, but if you were to draw a mist out of like an oil paint or some chalk around the Reuniclus. It's cool. This card is a reverse holo, so it looks like someone came in with a psychic icon stamp and just kind of went to town on the card. But other than that, I think it looks pretty nice. The last Reuniclus I have is I think from one of the most recent sets. This is from 2024. This guy's a stage 2, has 120 HP. It has 2 attacks. The first attack is called Summoning Gate. For a colorless energy, it says, look at the top 8 cards of your deck. You may put any number of Pokemon you find there onto your bench. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. And then it has the Brain Shake attack. For a psychic and a colorless energy, it does 100 damage. It says your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Now, you've probably heard, if you keep up with the cards and a little bit of the competitive scene, some people have talked about this card, but it's very, gimmicky. Summoning Gate is pretty insane. With the right combo of cards, you could just stack the top of your deck and get, upwards of 8, or I guess depending on like how much you have for bench space, 5 stage 2s. You can just pull them straight from the top, put them right under your bench. So this has a very high bar for its potential, but how do you get to that point where you can pull off the Summoning Gate attack? And then Brain Shake, consistent 100 damage for 2 energy just right out of the gate. It really shows the power level increase between this card and all the other Reunicluses. But other than that, Brain Shake is pretty nice as well. The weakness for this card is Darkness at ×2. So we're finally swapping over to Psychic being weak to Dark. Has a resistance to fighting of -30 and then a 2 retreat cost. The flavor text says, while it could use its psychic abilities in battle, this Pokemon prefers to swing its powerful arms around to beat opponents into submission. It's really weird. It's just such a physically strong Pokemon. It's weird to see how it's a psychic type. But if you think about it a little bit more, it has to use its psychic powers to control its arms. So it's not physically strong, it's psychically strong, which makes it physically strong. Now, the art on this one is really the main reason I wanted to talk about the card. This is I think it's called like a trainer gallery rare, or just like an art gallery card. So the art for the Reuniclus takes up the full card, which, goodness gracious, dude, the Pokemon Company landed on pure gold when they started pushing these cards out. Now, the illustrator for this one is Atsushi Furusawa. And it shows not only a Reuniclus, but a Duosion and then 2 Solosis in the card. And it's in a totally different area like we've seen before. It shows the Reuniclus laying on top of some like shallow water, kind of like a beach ball. And then the Duosion and the 2 Solosis are like following suit. And it's really pretty. You can see the like perfectly colored sand underneath, and there's a bunch of sparkles from the sunlight that's coming down on top of the Reuniclus and in the water. And as you go further away from the Reuniclus towards like the background, the water gets more blue into like a darker blue, and you can actually see part of the sky just taking up the top left corner. It's just a little slice. So you get some clouds in here too. Now the Duosion and Solosis are enjoying themselves. They have their eyes closed and they look like they're relaxing. And so is the Reuniclus. Its eyes are partly closed, and it just has a smile on its face. Its arms are outstretched, and it's just floating on top of the water. And I'm not sure. I mean, this card does look like it was made with some sort of like Photoshop or some like 3D software, just because of how I want to say perfect it is. There's really not one spot where I could say like, oh, that looks hand drawn, or oh, it looks like the artist might have had like a little mix up here. Like everything is just perfect, from all the shading, from the sunlight coming down to the reflections from the water inside of the liquid of the Reuniclus. There's just so much detail put into how this Pokemon fits into the environment, and I mean it's really well done. That's why I wanted to pick it up. A full art Reuniclus is totally different from all these other ones. And, it just adds on to a little bit more character and shows how, I want to say, like, not, like Reuniclus isn't a serious Pokemon. He's chill, likes to hang out with some of his friends, loves shaking hands, and just likes relaxing. It's a very relaxed Pokemon. But very powerful too. So, I mean, if you like these full art cards and if you like weird looking Pokemon too, I'd say, look at some Reuniclus. You might fall in love or you might just hate it, which is, totally cool too. There's just so many Pokemon out there to enjoy, and there's so many to pick. I hope at some point I can go over ones that, you like, and the quicker you comment and tell me what to do next, the quicker that I'll get to that Pokemon. So thanks for listening. Peace.